Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax so we can talk about what is happening up in the stars above for this weekend, which, by the way, is a very quietish weekend, right? There's not much for us to talk about. So it gave me an opportunity then to be able to talk more about the T squares that happen beginning, actually, they're lining up as of tomorrow, the 10th, through about the 20th to 22nd of this month. So we have this long period of time. And I mean, in the context of, time, it's not that long, but, at least a couple of weeks worth of this very interesting, maybe tense energy that is hitting, all of us individually, but also the world and the driving some of the events that will occur during this period of time. Of course, there's been lots of talk about what those events might be: fires, floods, earthquakes, the usual scare things, right? The hype around those kinds of things, which, by the way, happen all the time here on planet Earth. Those are not necessarily new, but they do kind of get an uptick in experience while we have some of the more tense kinds of transits going on. So, for example, yesterday's 7.1 in Japan isn't, in the grand scheme of things, all that odd because they often have earthquakes. But guess what was odd about it? Is that then the Japanese seismologists took the step of predicting a mega quake and preparing people for that to happen maybe sometime soon. I mean, they were kind of cagey about timing, but that was odd, right? So we have sometimes, out of these, crazy things that are going on, as above, so below, um, something different and interesting pops out of that. So now we're going to talk about that today in more detail. But then I've got like six charts, I think, five charts. You know, I can't help myself. When people ask, I give. So I'm going to try to go through as many of them as I can today. And as well, we'll talk about the moons, of course, that because we also have an interesting long sort of void of course moon occurring this weekend. And then we'll close perhaps with a card reading depending on time. So let's jump in, shall we? Let's get the good mornings over with here first. Good morning to Diana S. and TD Hawk. It is great to have you joining us again live anyway. I know you've been watching the videos. Pam Zaruba, good morning to you. And Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel, happy Friday to you as well. J Lo, hello. I do have your chart and our guests. You and I are talking later anyway, so you're kind of going to get a little insight into what we'll be chatting about. Joan Durchie, good morning. Catherine Gerard, good morning. Tom W., Mr. T Square, I pity the foo. Hey up, Astro family. Tom, you're so cute, so funny and cute. That's Fuke. Terry Strauss, good morning. I have your chart ready. MD, love you all. Grand Rising. So, shall we dig in? And everyone else who's out there but behind the scenes, good morning to you and welcome to the show. So today we begin with the moon in Libra today and tomorrow, but we have this very long void of course moon. Remember, the void of course happens when the moon is not making any new contacts to any planets or points before she changes signs. So at 2:45 p.m. this afternoon, my time, so West Coast time, she moves into the void and is in the void until tomorrow afternoon at 3:35 p.m. West Coast time. Thankfully, this long of a void is occurring mostly over a weekend or during a weekend where, we don't have to try to struggle to get things done at work or, make things happen, get meetings going and things like that, because a void of course moon is when the moon is sort of wandering and there's not much new that can happen during that period of time. And sometimes we feel like, why I can't get anything done, so I maybe need to slow things down. And that would be really what a good void of course moon would do, is help us slow down, get centered again, get clear about where we're headed, those kinds of things. So right now she's in Libra and she will be in Libra making new contacts until 2:45 p.m. And the moon in Libra is all about relationships. Remember, Libra is ruled by Venus, currently in Virgo. But while we have the moon transiting through Libra, we have this social interaction going on with our people, right? With the people in our lives that are either family or friends or even acquaintances, coworkers, colleagues, that kind of thing. So it ups the social interaction that we have with people. And strangely enough, it is also a great time for conflict resolution, right? Libra is a diplomatic sign. They like to harmonize, make peace, not, love, not war, peace, not, anger. So it's a one. It makes me wonder if there aren't some diplomatic things being worked out behind the scenes because we've all been sort of expecting Iran to, bash Israel one more time as they go back and forth with all of this stuff. But maybe there's some diplomacy going on behind the scenes that we don't see. I'm all for that. Um, Remember too that Libra, as a sign that's ruled by Venus, also takes us into beauty and to harmonizing and the aesthetically pleasing things, right? So, this might be a time where we feel an appreciation for beauty, for fashion. Um, Not me. I went to my closet this morning and said, "Okay, t-shirt, good." And it's my hummingbird t-shirt, if you can see the hummingbird there. But I love this because it's comfy. And but it's colorful. It's Libra, maybe. Also, decision making is an issue sometimes with the moon in Libra, as Libra can see all the facets of something and can tap into all the what ifs, right? What if this? What if that? What if that? And that can create some indecision. So if you are, waffling a bit on a decision, maybe that's because the moon is in Libra, or maybe it's because the moon is also, or because Mercury is also retrograde. Either way you look at it, just you're going to have to be a little maybe more deliberate or slower in how you make decisions right now. Seek advice if you're having trouble making a decision or if you need more clarity about something. But be careful with that because, that would add just one more facet of information for you as a Libra energy that, would, add that to the mix of reasons why not to make a decision yet. So, most of the weekend, then, a good chunk of it, all the way through tomorrow late afternoon, is all about our relationships. We do have a couple of challenges to watch out for, and that is because Aries is the opposite sign of Libra. There's always going to be the potential with with a Libra moon, to have emotional confrontations, right? Pulling in the more angry, bold, confrontational energies of Aries into the axis, right? Aries and Libra can make an axis. So avoid confrontation if possible. Um, if first of all, Libra does not like discord. Libra wants to have peace. And unfortunately, that can also lead Libra energies to sort of placate or make nice or, do things designed to make other people happy, but not really be the truth of what that Libra wants. And in this case, all of us are playing this weekend. So, be very aware of avoiding confrontations, but be mindful that peace at any cost is not always beneficial in the long run, right? What the word comes to mind here is what are you compromising to get there, right? So be careful compromise is not a negative. Most of the time we think of compromise as pretty positive. But when you're compromising, as in giving away the farm, that is not a good thing. And that might be something that is in your face during this time. So ensure that any efforts you're taking to find diplomatic solutions or to um, find a way to create peace in your life, that you're not creating conflict on one hand, but you're not overly compromising on the other, right? Libra's the scales. We have to balance both. Okay. So while there's an increased period of time that we're influenced by relationship energies, it can also be a quite harmonious transit for the moon, right? So today and tomorrow, we are in that Libran moon. And then, of course, that energy changes over the weekend, later Saturday afternoon, so 3:35 p.m. Pacific time, so that'll be 6:35 p.m. for those of you on the East Coast. The moon will move into Scorpio, and that changes up the energy. We go from the more aesthetically pleasing, let's create peace energy of the moon in Libra to the moon in Scorpio, where we have emotional intensity. And then we have deep feelings, right? These things that are heightening our sensitivity. And that might be heightened sensitivity to the moods of other people. We might be heightened in our sensitivity to the world, emotional energy, but also, more psychic during that moon transit, right? Scorpio is a sign that's just tuned in to all of the light and the dark, right? All of the things that are going on. It is also a sign when the moon moves through it that offers us the opportunity for transformation and healing on the psychological level. There might be insights coming through that help us uncover what the psychological makeup has been, what the real truth is. The Scorpio moon really is a good time for psychoanalysis and meditation, and other practices, maybe even like journaling and things like that, that are aimed at getting to the depth of an emotional or psychological issue that needs healing. So it's a healing moon as well. And Scorpio is a sign that holds on, right? It's a fixed sign, and Scorpio energy holds on to the past, to hurts and grievances, to emotions, to relationships, right? Of all the fixed signs, Scorpio really has an emotional attachment to the past. So it is a real need for us when the moon moves through Scorpio to look at what needs to be let go of, because Scorpio holds the cycles of death and birth and rebirth. So it's an opportune time for all of us to let go of grudges, let go of past pain, the wounds, or anything else that you need to release in order to move forward, including stuff, right? Stuff. Hoarding, right, is a Scorpio kind of thing. So it's a great time to look at all the stuff that you have. Is it usable? Could someone else use it? Right. And maybe it's time to make space for something new to come in. There's also a lot of introspection that comes with this moon, the introspection about sort of, engaging in that inner dynamic, looking within and, having that inner come to Jesus meeting, if you will, with yourself about what things need to be processed through or changed in your life, what needs to be transformed. There's also an air of mystery here, and Scorpio loves a mystery. They make great detectives. They make great researchers and investigators, right? That Scorpio is always in our chart somewhere, right? We all have it. You're not missing anything in your chart. So somewhere you have this edge of mystery or investigation or wanting to dig to the bottom of something, exploring of the mystical and the magical, the wonder and the awe. That's all also a part of Scorpio energy. Now, some challenges to watch out for: emotional overwhelm. Sometimes, things can happen that take you over the top, and it can be feeling heavy. And you might be not even picking up your own heaviness. You've got to always ask the question, is this mine? Especially if you have an open emotional center or solar plexus in your human design, because you're taking in the emotional energy of everyone around you and amplifying it. So, is the heaviness coming from yourself, from your own feelings, or is it something you're picking up from people around you? And, um, you know, it's time to maybe really get clear about that. What am I feeling? And is it really something that is mine to be feeling? There is a tendency toward obsession with Scorpio energy. Um, it could be, it's very easy for that scorpionic part of our chart. And if you're a Scorpio, even in your own life, to become overly obsessive or overly suspicious of people. And I've noticed that a lot of times Scorpios can get into this like conversation that's going on in the mind. And it can become an obsession that keeps thinking about this. There's jealousy, there's possessiveness, there's suspicion, and all of that. That's the real negative aspect of Scorpio. So try to maintain a balanced perspective if you're finding yourself obsessing about something, something that hasn't happened yet or something that has happened. Try to avoid dwelling excessively on that one thought or that one issue. Get outside, go do something that breaks that pattern, that regrounds you in a different way. And the moon will be in Scorpio all the way through Monday, actually through early Tuesday morning, like 3 o'clock in the morning. Will shift from Scorpio to Sagittarius. So we have a few days where this, can be coming up for all of us. So just be aware and watch out for the things that can become overwhelming in with the moon in Scorpio. All right, I'm going to take a look real quick at comments. How did I miss that? Good morning, Catherine Gerard. I did get your chart up. And let's see. Corey, good morning to you. Jolie, good morning. Patty, good morning. Took a bit to get on the small screen, so missed the Haya on Friday. Oh, TD says, my natal moon is in Libra. It is a moon return for you, a lunar return. Good morning, Catherine Worcester. MD says 11:11. That would have been 8:11 my time. Good morning, Christine. Corey says, when the moon is in Libra, do we all mostly experience it the same way, or does it depend on where Libra is in our charts? Boom, boom. You've got it, Corey. It depends on where Libra is in your chart. So if this chart here that I pulled for the morning for today's show, if this were a person, this person's Libra would be in the first house. And the first house then would be about a personal kind of connection to this Libran energy. Um, it might be a personal tendency that one has to give away too much of their, being overly diplomatic, that type of thing. Let's say it was in your 10th house, then that Libran energy would be playing out in the career area of your chart. Let's see, where's Libra in my chart? It's in the fourth house. So for me, it would be, playing out in family and foundation and my connection to the ancestors, that type of thing. So wherever it happens to sit by house. So let's talk about that real quickly because I was having a chat with someone the other day who was rather confused about, oh, let's see, where's the moon? It's over here. That was rather confused about the setup of the chart. And I hear this all the time. Someone says, I don't have a Libra in my chart. And I'm like, yes, you do. We all do. So I'm going to show you all something. And I know this will be review for a chunk of you, but bear with me here as I draw this out. So here is an astrology chart, right? This is the chart of the day, basically, that I drew up, early this morning. So when we take a look at this chart, when I say find Libra in your chart, you're going to be looking on this outer ring of the chart because this is where the signs are. And the signs I wrote in Libra there, it doesn't show up with a words underneath it that says Libra. It's the symbol for Libra. So you might need to learn what the symbols are. But these are the signs. And you can see everybody is going to have all of the signs. All 12 signs are represented in a chart, right? You don't get to miss that in your chart. And then that sign is going to sit in a pie shaped piece called a house, right? The house tells us where the action of Libra will be impacting you as a person. So in this chart, again, if this were a person, this would be impacting them in their first house of self and viewpoint, right? Then, if you are someone who has planets in Libra, and if this were a person, their ascendant, their black moon Lilith, the south node, and their moon would all be in their first house, that further modifies how your experience of Libra is versus how mine is or how your family's is. Okay. So I hope that's understandable. So you all have Libra somewhere. Libra looks like, the scales, and let me see if I can get in a little closer there so you guys can see that symbol. My camera doesn't want to come in clearer, but there you go. It kind of looks like two lines, but the top line has a mountain on it. So, okay. So thank you for letting me go through that with all of you just to make sure because I hear so many people all the time. I don't have Leo. I don't have Aquarius. Yes, you do. It's just maybe not obvious to you where that is. Okay. So let's see here. Moon, it's my karmic kids, Sibs, and Moon, all Scorpio Moon family. We have four Scorpio. I have four Scorpio grandchildren all in the same family, right? My daughter Jennifer has four Scorpio children. It's crazy. Terry Strauss, LOL, stop it. I was confused. I never said it was you. And it's never just you. It's always, it's never just you. If you're saying it, then other people are also confused, right? So hopefully that clears it up for people. TD Hawk Libra in the ninth house, Christine Pam, fellow Scorpio Moon 2, seventh house, Libra Vertex 6th. Wow. Lots of Libra connections out here. So, Corey, I hope that answers and that's your question, but also it goes for any sign, right? Any sign that we're talking about. Okay, boom. Let's move on, shall we? Because I have information to share about the T squares that are coming up on August 19th. Now, you may say, why are we talking about that today then? Because it's only the 9th. That's still 10 days away. But as you know, or as you've heard me say many times, those transits don't happen in just one day, right? That's the day they become exact. But they're already in process of moving like a clock, ticking down the minutes, right, to their exact. So, if you look at your clock, it's now 8:21. We have 9 minutes until it's 8:30, halfway through the hour. So it's the same thing with the transits. They're always ticking into that, which we call this waxing energy. So it means it's building up. It's getting more and more exact. But often the trigger points aren't at the exact. It's actually before. Right. So it's always good to talk about something big like these T squares before they actually happen so that you're aware of why things may be happening the way that they are happening. So there's that. And then, of course, we have the exact, and then we have the waning aspect pattern, which is, the few days after the exact. So the 19th would be the exact for two T squares that we're going to talk about. And then the waning, so we have another couple of days as that connection is getting weaker. So we get a span of time that I think, going from say the 10th to the 22nd, 23rd even, maybe even taking it out to the end of the month isn't unreasonable, right? Because this is pretty, big energy. So now let's talk about the T square. What is a T square? So, and I'm going to show, I have people's charts that I'm going to be showing on the screen. So you will get a visual of what this means or what it looks like in a chart here in a few minutes. There's key components of a T square, though. First of all, there is this opposition that is occurring between two planets. And that is forming sort of the base of the T square. And the opposition sets the stage for the tension between two contrasting areas of life and two contrasting energies, right? So we have an opposition in one of the T squares between Saturn in Pisces and Venus in Virgo. So the tension is coming between the energy of these two opposite signs. Pisces very spiritual, Virgo very practical and down to earth, and it forces all of us then to look at how do we balance these two opposing energies. And then the apex planet. So you have the opposition occurring, and then there's a planet at the point. And the two planets in opposition are squaring the point, right? So in this case, we have Saturn on one end and Venus on the other, and they're both squaring the Jupiter Mars conjunction in Gemini. So, and we know squares are also not easy to deal with, right? These are the energies of challenge and of needing to solve a problem, perhaps, right? And it's this tension created by the oppositions that need to be released through the apex planet or the point at the squares. And in this case, we have the opposition then between Saturn and Venus that need to be solved somehow through the Jupiter Mars conjunction in Gemini. All right. I will show you the picture. And then the houses, the areas of life that are represented in that T square show you the areas of life that are going to be most impacted by the T square, particularly the Jupiter Mars conjunction in the first T square we'll talk about today, because that's where the release is, right? It's the point at which the energy releases. So it seems like the release comes through communication, through a change in your mind, perhaps, or in the way that you communicate, right? Or how we get along socially, even, right? So, a lot of impact of that T square is going to play out in Gemini, and wherever Gemini is in your chart is where that release point is. All right. Now, there are different types of T squares because a T square is either going to happen in one of three modes, meaning it's going to either be a cardinal T square, meaning all three planets are in cardinal signs. And cardinal signs are the signs that are about initiating energies, or they're going to be in a fixed T square, which means that they're all three planets in signs that are fixed. So these are our stable signs, right? Building the foundation, setting, the roots and the foundation for, what comes next. And then there is mutable T squares, and the mutable T squares are ready for change, right? So the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius and Pisces, right? There's 4 in each group. And there can be issues around adaptability or changing. There could be struggles with inconsistency or with decision making. And when we are talking about the first T square, it is occurring it's a mutable T square, right? It's happening in the signs of Gemini and Virgo and Pisces. All right. Then there's also a fixed T square kind of sitting adjacent to the other one. And this one involves planets in fixed signs. This one will involve Uranus in Taurus and the sun in Leo, and the moon, the full moon, in the sign of Aquarius. So we have another T square to contend with. So they're interlocking. And again, you're going to see this vision as I put up people's charts. You will see this action. And that we have a mutable T square on one hand, like ripe for change, ready to go, but maybe we're experiencing issues around change and adaptability because we also have this fixed T square that's holding us to an old pattern, right? But it highlights the areas where we are resistant to change. It highlights power struggles, perhaps, or the need for us to endure, to stick with something. Okay. Any questions about any of that? Right? That's our base. Okay? Base understanding. Um, Tom, so there will be more UFO sightings and contacts with space aliens during ET Square? Squares have never been easy to deal with, man. um, Christine says, I have a lot of squares involving Scorpio planets. And of course, those are places where, because Scorpio is one of the fixed signs, right? Places where you get stuck, where you have more difficulty perhaps in letting go of the past, Christine, or past wounds or hurts or things like that, grievances. And maybe a lot of the lessons that you have are about how to move through those kinds of energies. And JLo, thanks for the reminder. If you guys are enjoying this video, please hit the like or the thumbs up and please subscribe. All of that good stuff. Thank you very much. Chester's mom, I am a Gemini sun and moon. Interesting. So in individual charts, it's almost, there are so many different permutations, but something interesting happened on my way to do this broadcast this morning. I have uh, in the beginning, I had 4 charts I decided I was going to do. I took on 2 more as the morning wore on, but 4, right? 3 of you have the same darn chart, but you are not the same ages or birth at the same time of the year. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was using the same chart 3 times, but it was definitely J-Lo, you're one of them. Terry Strauss, you're one of them. And I forgot who was the other one, but I've got all 3. I got all your charts. You're going to see it's like repeat, right? Repeat, repeat. And all three of you share Taurus in the 12th house and Uranus in Taurus in that 12th house. So it'll be interesting when we get to that part of the show to see how that plays out. All right, now let's look at the impact of the T square, shall we? Because they're they're going to have effects in our lives in some way or another. They represent an internal struggle, first off, right? Something in you. That you may feel constantly pulled in two different directions or opposing desires and opposing needs, or something, that pulls you in these, different diverging directions that then creates significant internal conflict. That's the opposition part of the T square. And then life situations sort of reflect the T square's energies in your outer world, which forces you to make choices, perhaps, or take actions that you might feel like conflicted about what you want to do. So often you might be having, this phrase, caught between a rock and a hard place, might be one of those things where you know that a T square has been activated, or at the very minimum, an opposition has been activated in your chart. So when you hear yourself saying that, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place, or any other sayings that go sort of to that, it's being activated. Get your chart, look at it. And it also creates then a drive for us to resolve the issue. So the inherent tension compels us to seek resolution. And it can lead to significant personal development and achievement if we manage to do this, right? Especially if we manage to do this constructively without blowing up our lives. We don't need to blow up our lives. We just need to solve the problem, and likely solve that problem in a way that is new, maybe different, maybe scary, right, to us. That's how we usually know that's the direction to go, because it scares the you know what out of us. So that is some of the effects of the T square and how you might be energetically connecting with it. Now, how do you manage these T square energies? Because so important to understand you have skills, right? You have antidotes, if you will, to the T square issue. The first is awareness and then acceptance. Understanding the nature of the T square, which we've just hopefully gone through, and now you guys got a better working understanding of what this is. It helps you to accept and work constructively with the challenges that are being presented to you. How do I constructively solve the needs that I have on one hand and the desires I have on the other? Right? I got to come somewhere to the middle. And essentially then we're balancing opposing forces. So we have to take effort to balance those planets that are involved in the opposition, and we have to integrate their energies in healthier ways, right? So on one hand, we have Saturn and Venus in opposition. So when we're talking about Saturn, we're talking about our responsibilities, our discipline, our structure. So how do we have to balance that in our relationships, in our finances, in our in the beautifying of our lives, in the peace that we want to create in our lives? How do we balance this? Right? On one hand, we're always wanting peace, but on the other hand, we have a responsibility in our family to be the conflict resolution artist. How do I do that? Right? So we're always needing to balance these qualities and to do them in ways that are more healthy than before, where maybe we just walked away and said, not my circus, not my monkey. And while that's appropriate at times, it might not be in this situation. And we have to learn to utilize the apex planet, the one that the T square is pointing to, and channel the tension into the house and the sign of the apex planet that can help us provide the constructive outlet for the energy. So we have, Saturn opposing Venus. So we have something, between duty and responsibility and discipline and structure that needs to be balanced or brought into harmony in our relationships, in our money, in our values and self worth. And the apex planet is at Jupiter and Mars. We have two at the apex at this point in Gemini. So perhaps that gets solved by changing our minds, by learning better communication skills, which include not only speaking but listening, right? So we can look at it in that way. So the ability to use that apex planet helps us to solve the problem and also leads to personal growth because we're being like, what's that saying? Squeezed through the eye of the needle, right? We're being forced, pushed to be different, to do something different. Okay, so then in conclusion here with the T square info, we're it's a challenge. No doubt there's a challenge here, but it's also a powerful driver for growth and for change. And the point is Jupiter, expansion, optimism, and growth, and Mars taking right action to gain those things in your life. They also pinpoint the area of the life where you are going to encounter stress and challenges, where we have though a significant opportunity to clean that all up, right? To solve an issue, to develop and achieve what it is that we want to achieve. So, mastery over a T square, whether it's in your natal chart, which you all probably have something like that in your natal chart too, or in a transiting chart, can help us, be more resilient and more personally powerful in our own lives. So while this energy is all kind of chaotic and crazy, it's also developing our evolution or helping us, evolve our consciousness. All right. So, questions, and I'm going to actually go through the planets too. I did kind of quickly write those down. So, we have the role of the planets. Um, let's see. Okay, we coming in as triplets. Indeed, you guys are triplets. Catherine Gerard, how does the T square work with the ascendant in Virgo, midheaven in Gemini, and the descendant in Pisces? Well, those are all sensitive points in a chart, Catherine. So you're looking at the need to work through personality issues, perhaps, or to really define your personality, who you are, and live that, and then shining that out into the midheaven, which is where usually the career house begins, right? This is how the world sees you, how you show up in the world, how you show your authority. And the descendant part will show you what you're missing, what's hidden from you, because that comes from the reflection of the people in relationship with you, right? So it's like a mirror. The descendant is the mirror through which you see, what you're projecting maybe onto other people, and helps you to see how you can become more powerful. The opposition there is, of course, the ascendant is I am, and the descendant is we are. So the balance is, how do I blend myself into the relationship without losing myself in those relationships? So hopefully that helps you there. All right, let's take a quick look at the role of the planets, and then we're going to go into doing readings. And I encourage you, even if I'm not doing your chart, to sit with this and watch this work through with other people, because you still gain insight into the workings of a T square. So if in a T square, of course, in these particular T squares, we have definite specific planets that are involved. And in this, we have Saturn involved. And Saturn is not the apex, but if it were, it would be about the restrictions and the discipline and the challenges in our lives that we would have to merge through. So it would look like you would need to become more responsible, right? To be more diligent in the work that you're doing. If we had Jupiter at the apex point, the release point, it could indicate someone who's been struggling with overindulgence, with unrealistic expectations, or struggling with overcommitment. And Jupiter it represents abundance and expansion and optimism, but when it's challenged, it can lead us to excesses. So we have to learn how to manage, maybe more constrict those overindulgences. When Mercury's at an apex, we're doing this through communication. The main challenge is probably in our thinking, in our perceptions of what it is that we're thinking. Maybe we have to face misunderstandings and things like that, which are never fun. Expressing your thoughts more clearly. So the key here is to learn effective listening and speaking communication, right? To understand what is happening. Now, when we have Uranus at a point, and we are going to have this happening, right? This in this one of these T squares, Uranus is at the point, at the apex, and it can lead to a struggle with change through because of unpredictability. It's the planet of innovation and sudden changes, right? So we have it causes a feeling of instability. It's shaky energy. It's earthquakeish energy, right? But once you learn to accept change and to embrace unpredictability, you can use this as a tool for liberation, for personal growth, and for expansion of the transformative nature of your life, right? The consciousness changes that you have to go through. If Neptune is at an apex, then it struggles with illusions and dreams, spirituality. You might have had a hard time distinguishing reality from fantasy or the ideal from the real. And now you actually have to face that and solve that through creativity, through intuition. And then that leads to more spiritualness and more self awareness, right? That would be Neptune at an apex point. You have Pluto at an apex point. Now you have major struggles with power and with letting go and transforming, right? Rebirthing something in your life. So you may face intense experiences that are going to force you to confront your deepest fears and desires. But Pluto offers the potential for profound transformation. I really do love Pluto in this. This in a T square, it's almost like he takes no prisoners, though. You must transform, but he doesn't do it like Mars would do it. So when we have Mars at an apex, you have action that comes, right? It might be issues that you have between us around assertiveness or being aggressive, maybe overly aggressive or not assertive enough, like wishy-washy versus, bold. It's the planet of drive and ambition, but when it's in a tense aspect like a T square, which it is, right? It's at the apex point. It can lead to impulsiveness and conflict and rash decisions. So we have to watch this. The key here is to use that energy very constructively and rather than the destructive tendencies. And this is one of the things that I find a little daunting in the two T squares that we're going to be looking at in people's charts, because on the bigger, wider world stage, that apex point includes Mars, right? So boom, right? Tit for tat kind of thinking. And you bomb me, I bomb you. But I do it worse, right? So then the next one has to, you know what I'm saying. When Venus is at the aspect or the apex point, it brings in the need for us to handle love and beauty, harmony, our finances, your financial health, your self worth, that kind of thing, your values. And sometimes that means we're going to have difficulties in relationships that we need to solve, or issues with self esteem that we have to work through. Maybe we have an overemphasis going on the superficial nature of beauty and peace and harmony. Lots of things, right? Not aligned with our values. And the apex Venus would push us to make that realignment. If the sun is at the apex point, and it is not in this configuration, but if it were, your core identity and your ego may be your main challenges, right? You may struggle with self expression and bringing out the true and authentic you, or you may have struggles maintaining your own individuality or your own identity. So you're definitely someone that would be learning to balance your personal needs with with the demands that others put on you, right? So that growth would come from experiencing that. And if the moon is at the apex of a T square, it is emotional. And it could be emotional issues, security issues that take center stage in your life. You might struggle with mood swings or moodiness, emotional sensitivity or oversensitivity, and issues related to home or family that might be the trigger for emotional sensitivity. So, learning to manage your emotions and nurture your personal needs, all of that can lead to emotional maturity and emotional IQ, EQ, we call it, and inner peace. Boom, 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 shakalaka. So, that gives you an idea of what the planets are at the point. Now we have about 16 minutes. I'm going to do this quick, you guys. So hold on. I am going to pull up people's charts. Let me make sure I have them. Where did I put them? They are in a file on my desktop. There they are. So the first one in line is Tom Wright. And Tom, I'm bringing it up, and now I'm going to share my screen so everybody can see it. If you have a problem with me sharing your chart on the screen, please let me know right away so that I don't do that. I need this one. Here we go. Presentation mode. All right. So everybody, hopefully you're seeing Tom's chart. All right. So what you're seeing here, Tom, is a representation of the T squares. The black blue T square is the one that is Jupiter Mars at the apex and the opposition point between Venus and Saturn. So right, so we think of this as your apex, right? Jupiter Mars being pushed through the 10th house of career, authority, your authentic self, and the balance point between the 7th house here of relationships, right? Your marriage or your significant other relationships or even business partnerships that need to be balanced with love of self energy over here in your first house Venus, and 7th house Saturn by transit. This isn't birth, by the way, guys. This is a transit that is occurring in Tom's chart, in all of the charts that we're going to look at. So for you, the apex planet, Jupiter and Mars, you have to control your own viewpoint here. You need to be able to see yourself from a higher perspective. You need to call up your authority and be your true and authentic self, and then merge that into this balancing need in your relationships. And by the way, you are a Gemini, right? Here's your natal sun and your natal midheaven. By the way, your natal midheaven sits at 19 degrees. This is all happening at 17 degrees. Your natal sun is at 13 degrees. So it kind of sits right here at this midpoint, triggering some kind of growth opportunity for you in terms of how you assert yourself out into the world, how you even view yourself in your authority and in your authenticity. And that comes from struggles from relationships, balancing self and others. All right. So that's that T square. The second T square happens on the same day, but with the full moon. So at this point, we have Uranus in the apex, right? With the sun in Leo over here in your 12th house, and the moon, which, right, this chart wasn't for the time of the full moon, but the full moon will be right here. And so the opposition is in the 12th house and the 6th house. Now you're working on healing energy, right? This is a full moon. They bring like the light shining on the psychology wounds, the mental wounds, the belief systems, and how those can be healed during this period of time. And it like is a light bulb that shines then onto the apex planet here, Uranus, in your ninth house, which is urging you to again move into your higher self and see all of that from a higher perspective, and then liberate yourself from all of the old stuff, all of the old, all of the old grievances, all of the old experiences, all of the old things that are hanging around your neck, sort of like a noose that you can be liberated from. This is a huge time, I think, for you. And there is something to be said, too, about the opposition point, which I didn't bring up in the talk. But, the opposition point from Jupiter and Mars is going to be in Sagittarius, your fourth house, being more at home, being more in a stable foundation, really validating that that's a truth for you. And then the fourth house becomes the third house becomes the stability point for the changes that Uranus is bringing in your ninth house. And that really is about writing, speaking, sharing, teaching of the struggles that you've been encountering. So, and lucky for you, you don't have a lot of natal planetary energy mingling in here. So it's almost more purely, from outside of you that you might see and connect with some of these changing energies. So I hope that's helpful. Let's see, can I change to the next chart this way? No, I cannot. Stop sharing then. And by the way, guys, if you'd like, I can send you your charts after the show is over today. It might take me some time to do that, but I want to be able to do that for people. if possible. Jacqueline. Okay, Jacqueline and Terry Strauss and I think it was Jennifer Davenport, all 3 of your charts all look the same. So, I'm gonna take you I'm gonna go through each one of your charts a little bit because what could be different is the way it's set up in your natal. But I mean, imagine my surprise. I mean, what are the odds that that would happen, that 3 people who are, by the way, not born anywhere near each other, um, would have a similar chart like this. It was stunning to me. Oh, I can go there. Okay, so Jacqueline, your chart is now up. So the first thing, let's look at the black one, or the dark blue one here, because this is the point at which the apex energy of Jupiter and Mars in Gemini are releasing from the opposition of Saturn in your 10th house and Venus in your 4th house. Gosh, you know what this really feels like to me? And this is just, me. Um, but it feels like the point in your life when your kids are all grown and your responsibilities that you've had to, balance from your worldly self and your home and family self get released through the first house, in this case, the first house of you. Right? What do you want? How do you want to live your life going forward? So, the growth and opportunity, I think, here for all 3 of you who have this same similar chart is really going to be about reasserting yourself into this picture, right? For so long, you've been factoring in the work world, right? Your responsibilities in terms of career or how you have to be responsible, for whether it's kids or your job or your bills or your whatever, right? And balancing that against maybe, in this case, um, n- your relationship with your family, sort of overcoming any personal relationships you might have, and now the opportunity to really be the one who shines, right? You are the shine. Um, so the apex point being assert yourself, right? For you, do things for you. You've done the balancing act between your worldly self and your responsibilities to home and family. Now you get to choose to do what you want, right? That's kind of how this looks. Now, the other aspect pattern here, the other T squares, the point is at Uranus and in your 12th house. The opposition is then between the moon at 27 Aquarius and the sun at 27 Leo. And this is an opposition, right? It's an opposition. So you're balancing the 3rd house with the 9th house, your spiritual self with your worldly self, your spiritual beliefs with your mind. So all of that, and there's a big spotlight shining here, which might bring aha moments, might bring some, stellar uh, moments of clarity around your connection to spirit, God, source, whatever you want to call that. And then the apex point relieves you through liberation of old limiting beliefs, the 12th house, of fears, of blocks, of restrictions, of self sabotage. This is liberation of the unconscious mind. So this one seems very esoteric for me in this for you, Jacqueline. So esoteric is good. It gives us a clue as to the fact that maybe you're raising your consciousness, you're evolving through letting go of old patterns, old beliefs, places of fear, that kind of thing. So amazing, right? Okay, now let's see. That's Jacqueline. Let's look at. And I'm sorry I'm doing this fast, you guys, but you know how it goes, right? We've got lots to talk about. Let's go back to sharing the next screen, and I noticed that I could pick this up, and I want to go, nope, that isn't going to work. Maybe it will. Let's go to Jennifer Davenport. All right. Somebody tell me if you're seeing a chart. Nope, it hasn't. It didn't change. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and do it the old-fashioned way, like I just did before. Um, Now I'm going to share. Okay. Jennifer, doesn't this look like a repeat? Right? We just saw this exact same chart with J-Lo. And yet yours is fundamentally a little bit different because that full moon is on your ascendant, excuse me, your midheaven. So the midheaven is the sensitive point of career and of your asserting of your authority in the world or being your authentic self. And it's also being balanced by the sun in your natal chart because your birthday is August 17th. This whole configuration is happening on August 19th. So, in this process, you are learning to balance. This is, by the way, the full moon one. The green lines are about the full moon. So, you're really balancing your spiritual self in the context of the work that you do and also the words that you speak or the teaching, the writing, the sharing that you do, the communicating that you do, being kind of set up as a solar return, meaning a major theme for you as the year goes on is going to be about how you teach, share, communicate, your share your gifts, your talents, the work that you do, and the opposition is maybe between what you've really wanted to share, but maybe felt like you couldn't, versus what you have been sharing that doesn't quite seem as fulfilling anymore. So you're asked to elevate, right? Elevate, to look from the bigger perspective, share the bigger picture, dare to share the spiritual things, the insights that you have. And the apex being at Uranus here, letting go of the fear of doing all of that, right? Because there could be a fear that people won't accept me if I tell them that I'm psychic. I'm making that part up, but I would say that maybe you really are. There's something else here because Pallas Athena is very close to Uranus at this time. Your natal Pallas is at 25 degrees, Uranus is at 27. And it's a possibility that something to do with the masculine influences in your life has held you back, and it's time to let those go to liberate yourself from the old masculine voices that you're hearing in your head. It could be your father, it could be any male that has dominated your actions or who maybe you fear to really let out the more masculine energy that you have of doing, of taking action, and it's time for you to let that go for certain, right? That is this opportunity. And then, like JLo, you have that Jupiter Mars at the apex in your first house, not terribly far away from your natal ascendant. So you have an opportunity to change who you are, right? This is about you transforming self. And that, again, is coming from an opposition of Saturn in your 10th house, where you've maybe been very stoic or stuck or being overly responsible, and coming down here into the 4th house, where relationships have to be balanced as well. So, the relationship I think you're working on here has to be the one that you have with you, with Jupiter conjunct Mars, actions that you have to take in order to move forward. I am going to go beyond 9 o'clock to get some of these other charts through because I just think this is so fascinating to do. I love sharing this. I hope you guys don't mind. Next, I'm going to show Terry Strauss. Terry, you are another one of the three charts that are very similar. Hold on, let me share the screen. Doopy doo window. Ah, there you are. Okay, Terry, here's yours. Same pattern, and kind of a little bit like Jennifer's that we just did, because the moon for you is also on your midheaven and on your natal Saturn. There is something being rearranged in how it is that you share your insights, your higher knowledge, you're a medium. So, of course, this, might be even a representation of the spiritual energy that comes in and through you, and being communicated in a new way with the sun and Mercury retrograde. By the way, I forgot to mention Mercury retrograde here. He's also as part of this base in the third house about how you communicate what you're seeing, what you're hearing, who you're sharing it with. Is it going to be more in a group? Is it going to be more singly? Is it going to be more writing? That type of thing. And of course, Uranus in the 12th house, letting go of what it is that scares you, what it is that you have held as an old belief that needs to be released, or where you have been self sabotaging. The opportunity for you also in the first house, Gemini, for the apex growth of Jupiter and Mars, on top of your ascendant as well, a change in your personality, right? What is in your personal point of view and how you see things, right? Being seeing things maybe is how you've been how you've been personally engaged in your life is different, or that's the opportunity for you. And then Saturn and Venus in the opposition, they're kind of coming across your Uranus Pluto conjunction. It's a little far away from it, but it's still being triggered in terms of that conjunction. It is, you were born at a time where a paradigm shift, a cultural change was underway, and we are also at a time now where there's a cultural change underway. And in some ways, that requires you to change and come along with a new paradigm that, adopting a different point of view and, being an anchor, if you will, of the new energies that are coming into the planet. So that's maybe part of the message that you share with your clients or with your family as time goes on. All right, so let's see here again. Who was after Terry? Tom, I did. Tracy. Who else didn't I do? Oh no, here we go. Catherine Worcester and then Tracy. And Catherine, hold on while I pull your chart up and share it. So there we go. Share. Boom. All right. So here now we have somebody different. We had the three that were very similar, different, a little bit different themes, but very similar. And now here, Catherine, your chart is, completely different here. So if we look at the Saturn Venus opposition, there's something coming out of the dark here in terms of beliefs that you have about yourself, perhaps, or about your work that you do, or about your psychic abilities. There's, Saturn gets like in a rut, and the rut is in the conscious mind here for you. So how can you unleash or balance um, the mental psychological things that need to be done, or that you want to do or that you want to share, with the actual work and service of Venus over here moving through Virgo in your sixth house of work? So it feels to me like that access, that is, maybe on one hand there's something you would really love to be doing more of, and you've been hesitant to do that. But on the other hand, there's this real need to change, and be more. Maybe it's a change in values. There's a disrupt in the values so that you would actually move more toward the communication of those things that you truly love, of you really bringing out your authentic self. And note that, Jupiter and Mars here are at about 17 and 19 degrees, I believe it is. That puts them on top of your natal Chiron. So there's a real healing path going on here in terms of how you communicate, what you communicate, how you share of yourself, um, how you listen or hear what others are saying, and then how you know, mirror that back to people. So it's really pretty interesting to see how this plays out in your chart. It is definitely not necessarily something comfortable, but when we have planets moving through our 12th house, Saturn is looking at all the places that you are holding too many boundaries, or where you don't have enough boundaries. Where have you been too boundaryless? And or where have you been too rigid? And bringing all of that out, and your own natal moon and Jupiter are here. When I see Jupiter, anytime for anybody, when I see Jupiter in the 12th house, there's a hidden master within you, a hidden guru, if you will, that is you, right? That you're housing so much wisdom in the spiritual realm here, in your hidden unconscious mind, that maybe you've been hesitant to bring out, right? Maybe thinking it wasn't going to be acceptable by others, or there was maybe some kind of danger in bringing that out. Um, you know, I think of past lifetimes and where there's maybe been persecution type things. So this T square comes along and says, boom, I'm done with that old stuff and I'm going to bring it out in a new way. Now, the full moon is across your 11th and 5th houses. So this impacts your creativity and how you share that creative energy with your groups of people, your friends, your networks. And the Uranus point here is at your value and self worth. You are worthy. What you have to share is worthy, even if it's different, right? Even if it's unique, right? So having to bring out and share your uniqueness, your individuality, that's what the Leo Aquarius axis would be about. And the point of that coming, I'm not even sure if you guys can see me, um, but the point down here coming into the second house says, I need to be confident. I need to be acting from a place of worthiness. I need to be unleashing myself, my value, my worth into the world. And then likely that might even, bring on some more flow of abundance. We've got a second house. Uranus here, ups and downs perhaps in finances, but when you release yourself to be authentic and do what you really love and be who you want to be, boom, it affects the money that comes in. It's just the way that our world seems to work. When you're following your passion, the money takes care of itself, kind of thing. All right. So sorry, I know these are going fast. And lastly, I have um, Tracy Evans. Tracy, let me share my screen with you. I hope this is helpful for you guys. Okay. So now, Tracy, your chart is like the total opposite of Catherine Worcester's that we just looked at. And that's because the point of your Jupiter Mars, what needs to be released by taking a bigger look, is in Gemini in your eighth house of death and rebirth. So this is regenerative energy. So the opposition where the stuck point has been is maybe in how you are in relationships in terms of your friends or the people you associate with or the ones you hang out with. And hope in your dreams, your hopes and your aspirations, right? The value of yourself in being able to bring in your dream by using your creative energy. The fifth house, Saturn here, is really helping you to see where it is maybe you've been holding yourself back in love and romance, in your creative expression, in the youthfulness, the risk taking part of your life. So this opposition between needing to take risks, to be creative, but also to make sure that it's something that the world can use or that the world expects from you, like how does the world interact with you here? And the point is at the eighth house, a big transformation going on, a death, literally rebirth processing, right? So transformation coming through, you're adopting a different message, right? This is also about money that comes in from others, like from a spouse, perhaps, or a significant other, or lottery winnings, inheritances, money that comes from other people, not necessarily money that you earn. So it's like passive income, I think of too here. And then the full moon T square across the fourth and the 10th houses, balancing, it seems, a focus on career and profession. Who am I in the world with who am I at home? I wonder if there's some kind of family dynamic that's holding you down a little bit or keeping you more restricted. That because if you look at this fourth house, you have Venus, South Node, Sun, Moon conjunction, and which is a new moon, and Mars all here and being impacted by the full moon that's going to be sitting on top of your natal moon. This is like a new moon opportunity for you, Tracy, in the fourth house. A new home, perhaps, a new foundation in your life, something big coming that rearranges your life fundamentally and helps you hopefully rebalance career and profession focus and home and family focus. Like if you were to have a child right now, that would fit here because fifth house Saturn, you suddenly have more responsibilities in your life, right? A child brings that responsibility, and now I have to adjust my home life and my work life, right? there's always that. And the point where Uranus is in the seventh house of business partnerships or marriage, significant others. Maybe something being unleashed here in terms of where maybe there's been sticking points in the relationship or where you've given too much of yourself to the relationship and a need now, especially with the moon this weekend, to balance your own self within your relationships. So, and you know are an Aquarian anyway, so you have that need to set yourself up for the future. This is also future focused in some ways for you. And I noticed that your birth date 1981, so you're also 1981 makes you what 43-ish, 42-ish, 43 likely. So you're also at your midlife opposition. Let's see if I can see that here. Yep, you have Uranus over here and Uranus over here. So they're opposing one another. Or in the process of opposing one another. So you're at your midlife crisis point. You might really consider having a personalized reading where I can really break this down for you, and get in, feedback from you as to what's happening, because big changes are up afoot for you at this point. You must be feeling, very much like a revolution is happening within your own life. All right. So I hope that was fun for everybody. Let me see if I could do questions real quick. Christine Ozola, do you give couple chart readings to see the electromagnetic? Yes, of course. That's fun, by the way, to see how we're drawn together by electromagnetics, right, in our charts. Those bonds are the tightest bonds that we have. And by that, what we're talking about there is in human design. If you have one half of a channel and your spouse or significant other friend has the other channel, or the other half of that channel, and when you come together in relationship, they're drawn together, and that bond can be very tight, but when it's broken, it can be very difficult too. So breakups and so forth can be, hitting that part. But yes, I do relationship readings like that, and you're welcome, everybody. I don't see any question. Triangle shape of the T square and the opposite point. Do they make a bow and arrow? They can, Tom. They can, especially if you have a planet that is at the other side of the apex point. Then it is very much like a bow and arrow, but it can also create then a grand square, which can be even more challenge to the challenge. That is a deeper conversation. And okay, that is it for me. Let's draw a card. I just want to draw a card. I'm sorry. I know I'm late. 9:12. I got to get moving here. Let's draw a card. And this card will be for us to, this is from the Psychic Tarot deck, by John Holland, right? It's a very awesome deck. Um, and it came to my attention yesterday and was so profound in guiding me on something that, I was struggling with. So I like this deck. Whoa. And let's use this for the T-squares and see what we've got. We've got Sacrifice, card number 12. And that's a 3. Interesting. Let's see what this is all about. I'm not as familiar with this deck, so I can't even tell you what, my sense is of this, except maybe there's something we need to let go of during this period of time. Is that a chakra card? I'm going to have to look it up. Sorry, guys. He arranges his in not a very logical sequence. It's logical in a different way. Sacrifice is not red. It's not green. It is. Sorry. Okay. So this card is missing. Nope, there it is. Page 49. By this time of the broadcast, my eyes are usually going crossed. Oh, okay, so sacrifice. Powerful achievements are usually born as a result of great sacrifice. This card represents self-sacrifice and a time when you should look around your life to see what needs to be released. T square. By surrendering and letting go, there will be more room to receive. The rewards for this are transformation, wisdom, gratitude, and enlightenment. This card signifies that there's a situation happening or about to occur in your life, and you can't control the outcome. This would be a good moment to pause, rest, have patience, reflect, and meditate. It would be wise to stand back so you can learn to look at events with a more understanding, intuitive eye. Try to view the people, issues, or problems from a different perspective. If you can achieve this, it will have a profound effect on your soul and your life. The sacrifice card can also symbolize a period of transition and change. The solutions you seek may be slow in coming, for it could be necessary to live into the answers. Accept the things that you cannot control, heal and leave the past behind, move towards your future, and watch for new doors opening and paths that are being shown to you. This is the traditional tarot archetype of the hanged man. Sacrifice. I think that works, right? What are you willing to let go of in order to move toward the apex planets in those T squares? All right. Thank you for hanging in there with me today, guys. Much love to all of you. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Bye for now.